Good evening, all. Welcome to another episode of OmenG's Stupid Scary Stories. If you enjoy stories of the paranormal and stupid nature, well, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And if you like this video, give it a like. And if you want to be notified when these stories pop up on YouTube, well, hit the notification icon and you'll be notified, of course. Now, once again, I'll be reading from Connecticut Ghost Stories Legends by Thomas D'Agostino and Arlene Nicholson, part of the Haunted America series. Tonight's story is the Headless Horseman of Canton. So, while you grab your popcorn and such, I'll go ahead and cue up the music. Yes. 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 Are you ready? Okay, good. You've got your popcorn? Okay, good. Drinks? Okay, yeah. The quaint hamlet of Canton was once part of Simsbury before becoming a separate town in 1806. The town's dimensions run about 8 miles north to south and 4 miles east to west. What is now Canton Village was once known as Suffrage, and it was in this village that a most bizarre and gruesome account took place. The reader of this narrative may rebuke its contents, but there is proof of what is penned not only here, but in historical tomes as well. The idea of a headless horseman brings up childhood memories of reading tales of horror around Halloween, or even the great writing of Washington Irving. Perhaps there is also a lace of truth woven into his tale about the famous Headless Horseman. During my research into this amazing legend, I came across an article written by Canton historian Dr. Lawrence S. Carlton. It is with his kind permission that I reprint his work for all to enjoy, as no one seems to have recollected it better than he. It is called The French Paymaster's Ghost. It is late fall in the aftermath of the American Civil War, and a weary trader urges his horse through a narrow defile by the eastern border of the town of Canton, Connecticut. The slight breeze, with just a hint of the approaching freezing gales of winter, swirls gray fog about the base of the rocky cliffs. Ill-defined shapes resembling weird four-legged creatures or heavily cloaked predators of malevolent design appear and disappear before the traveler's eyes, sometimes dead ahead, but more often just on the fringes of his range of vision. He digs his heels into the horse's flanks as he feels impelled to move quickly between piles of rough boulders fallen from the cliff heights. Suddenly, his steed stops with ears pointed straight forward, but no sound is heard. Yet there, just off the worn path of the road, there is someone fairly described sitting astride an equally faint image of a horse. The traveler calls out a greeting. "Can you tell me how far it is to Hosford's Inn?" No answer is forthcoming. Instead, the figure raises his hand, pointing ahead, and gallops off and disappears to the west. It is only then that the traveler feels a cold chill along his spine as he realizes that his guide not only makes no noise in his leaving, but was out ahead on a shoulder. Considerably shaken by his apparition, the traveler pushes on and shortly arrives at the famous Hosford Stand, a noted rest stop on the old Albany Turnpike between Hartford and upstate New York. Here, the bartender notices the man's arrival, shaking hands as he grasps his pint of ale, and gazing at his wan face, remarks, "So you've seen him too? The French paymaster. Conditions must be right this evening. Have a seat and we'll tell you all about him." The locally well-known tale begins in the year 1781. During the warring years of the American Revolution, a young lieutenant of the Allied French forces, on his way to bring much desired monetary payments for his comrades along the Hudson River in the neighborhood of Saratoga, stopped for the night at this inn. In those days, it was Dudley Case's Tavern, one of several hostelries along the then poorly traveled Albany Road. Several of the local fellows in the tampon, having their customary late evening bitters, noted the arrival of the well-dressed officer and the heavy leather saddlebags thrown over his shoulder. The lieutenant responded to their inquisitive comments by indicating that he spoke little English and merely asked for food and a private room for the night. After his meal, he followed the innkeeper upstairs to a room and asked to be awakened early in the morning, entered the room, closed and locked the door. Except for the innkeeper, who alleged to have awakened his guest early and sped him on his way, no one ever saw the paymaster again. At least, not in the flesh. A month or two later, French and American officers visited the Case Tavern with many questions about the paymaster's disappearance, for indeed he had never reached his destination, nor had he been seen at any other inns along the route. No trace was found at that time. However, years later, some boys fishing in nearby Cherry Pond did pull up some fragments of an old saddle and remains of a long-dead horse which had unique horseshoes on its deteriorating hooves. Also, it was said that a half-wit who worked at the inn had been heard to remark, "I shook the bush, but somebody else got the birds." In his last days on earth, the dying man was closely guarded so that no curious inquisitor could get near enough to hear his ravings. Since that time, especially on moonless and foggy nights, a ghostly rider, sometimes without a visible head, speeds along the pike heading west. The apparition is believed to be the ghost of the French paymaster, murdered at or near his place in 1781, and unable to complete his urgent mission. Our traveler, after a restless and nearly sleepless night, went on his way, but never forgot his eerie experience. Several years later, he learned that the Hosford stand was burned to the ground in 1784, and that workers cleaning up the site had stumbled upon a skeleton partially buried in the cellar floor of the inn, along with a few ragged fragments of leather. Curiously, the skull was found separated at some distance from the remainder of the bones. Folks then recalled that the innkeeper seemed to continue to be prosperous, buying new furniture and other things, despite the fact that his business had greatly diminished. In recent years, no sightings of the Headless paymaster have been reported. Perhaps the endless motor traffic along a wide and paved highway has finally put an end to these apparitions. Nevertheless, the legend lingers on. Lawrence S. Carlton, M.D. For many years, witnesses encountered the phantom racing at a furious clip on his steed, whose eyes glowed with the fires of hell as its hooves pounded the ground, yet no sound could be heard. In contrast to the above writing, motorists traveling along that section of Route 44 have attested to seeing the phantom horseman gain upon them with shocking speed. According to other sources and stories, with the advent of the motor car, drivers were often taken by surprise by the ghostly specter as it came out of the shadows and caused them to swerve in an attempt to avoid a collision. To this day, motorists still report the sudden appearance of a headless, misty figure on horseback heading west on the turnpike in the small hours of the night. Many have had to turn suddenly to avoid hitting the phantom rider, who seems to be forever trying to complete the task of delivering the pay to his fellow soldiers. Could it be an overactive imagination, or perhaps a bit of weariness on the part of drivers as they whisk by the shadows along the road? I cannot say either way, as I have never come across the Eternal Rider, but someday, by chance, you possibly will. The Albany Turnpike is better known as Route 44, a thoroughfare that stretches from Plymouth, Massachusetts, cutting its way through Rhode Island and Connecticut, and finally entering New York State. There is no shortage of haunts along this highway. From phantom hitchhikers to ghostly riders, Route 44 boasts them all. Now, let me tell you my experience on Route 44, because it wasn't necessarily a good one. In fact, it wasn't a good one at all. I remember one night, in search of this headless French paymaster, got in my car. I figured, you know what I'll do? I'll drive along this stretch of highway and, see what I see. If there's anything to see at all. Now, as I'm driving, I notice the mist and the tree line and shit. But that's not uncommon in these parts. Especially that particular area. It's a misty area. There's bound to be some fucking mist in the trees. So that not necessarily means, oh my god, paranormal activity. But I was wrong. I was very wrong. As I'm driving down the road, I notice a man on the side of it. He's hitchhiking, right? Looks like a regular everyday guy. I'm not, sensing any kind of paranormalness. I don't feel scared or anything. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy's got a long way to go before he gets anywhere. So you know what? Maybe it might be a decent thing for me to do to pick this guy up. I mean, I know what it's like to sometimes be out in the middle of nowhere and need a ride somewhere because maybe your car broke down or some shit like that. So I stopped, pulled over, and said, hey, hop in. Now I know what you're thinking, right? Why the fuck would you pick up a fucking hitchhiker on a haunted road? Or why would you pick up a fucking hitchhiker, period? Haunted road or not? That's dangerous, man. That's fucking dangerous. I know what you're thinking. And you're right. It's dangerous. Ghost or not ghost. Could have been some crazy psycho guy trying to kill me. But it wasn't a crazy psycho guy trying to kill me. What it was something that I'll never forget as long as I live. You know what I'm saying? I'll never forget it. So the guy, he gets in the car and he sits down. He's like, oh man, I didn't think anybody was going to stop. I was like, how long have you been out here? He's like, oh my god, I don't even know how long I've been out here. I've been out here for a while, man. It's been, jeez, I don't even know. I've just been out here for a very long time. I lost track of the time I've been out here so long. I said, man, that sucks. Thirsty? I've got a couple of bottles of water in the back if you want one. He's like, no, I'm all right. Thank you very much. Thanks for stopping, man. Jeez. Thank you. So, we're just driving, and he's asking me questions about, who I am and shit like that, and I tell him all this stuff. We're just having regular, back and forth conversation. Nothing crazy, nothing out of the ordinary, right? It's then when I notice, as I'm looking at the guy, he's kind of dressed, let's just say, not for the times. You know what I'm saying? Not for the times. Not for the times at all. In fact, he looks like he could be from like, I don't know, the 50s, maybe 40s, perhaps. I didn't notice this at first. I just noticed the guy needed a ride and shit. So as I'm looking at this dude in his old-timey clothes and shit, I'm starting to get nervous. I'm starting to get nervous. So now I'm thinking to myself, do I have a ghostly passenger? Is this guy a ghost? So I look at him. I say, so, what's your name? He tells me his name is John Jacobs. Hi, Mr. Jacobs. Oh, Mr. Jacobs is my father. Oh, call me John. Okay, John, how you doing? So, what do you do, John? It's like me, I'm a shoemaker. Shoemaker? Really? Whereabouts do you, make shoes? He told me someplace. I wasn't familiar with it. Never heard of it before in my life. Right? So I asked him, I said, how did you end up out here on the road hitchhiking? So when he tells me his Model T ran out of gas, I'm thinking to myself, it's not necessarily meaning that he's a paranormal guy, right? He could just be a guy who has an old Model T collectible car that happened to run out of gas, and he's hitchhiking. Although I didn't see any Model T cars on the road anywhere, right? I didn't. But nonetheless, I don't want to jump to the conclusion that this guy is like, a ghost, because you can't just like throw a ghost out your car. Once you invite them in, you're kind of fucked. You know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? Okay, good. I'm glad you know what I'm saying. So anyway, right? He's explaining to me how the car ran out of gas and he started walking to go, get gas. He's on the side of the road. He said it was then that he saw a man on a horse approach. It was dark at the time, so he wasn't aware that this man didn't have a head until it was way too late. And the man got close to him. He said the last thing he remembers is the horse galloping towards him at full speed. He dove off the side of the road. The horse went by. He got back up and continued to, hitchhike. But what he was not aware of, and I was now quite aware of, was that the headless ghost had ended his mortal life, cursing him to wander this road for an eternity. But he was unaware of this. So I began to wonder to myself, how long has he played out this same scenario over and over again? Right? I can't be the first person that's picked this guy up from the side of the fucking road. I know I'm not, right? Can't be. Now, mind you, I'm looking ahead of me, right? I'm not looking at him while he's talking. He stops talking after he tells me about the horseman galloping and him jumping into the bushes and coming back to the road. So, I'm wondering why he's gone silent. So I say, hey John, you alright? No answer. I turn to look at John, and that's when I see he's sitting there staring blankly out the front window. And across his neck is a huge gash. And I mean so big that if you pushed his head just a little bit, it would probably fall off or only be connected by a small amount of flesh in the back of his neck. It was then at that exact moment, I knew that I was in for some shit. He looked over at me. His eyes were completely black. I said, look, John, as I was pulling my car slowly over to the side, I don't want any problems. I don't want any problems, John. If you want my car, you can have it. He says, I don't want your car. I said, you don't want my car? He says, no. I said, well, what do you want, John? I want your soul. My soul? I'm kind of attached to it, if you know what I mean, John. So I'm not going to be able to make that, sacrifice for you. And as I said that, I opened the door and I jumped out the car, which wasn't completely stopped, but was slow enough that I could jump out and land on my feet and run off into the woods. Why I would do that, you ask? Well, there's a damn ghost in the fucking front seat of my car that wants my soul. And I'm not too keen on giving him what it is he fucking wants. Alright? So I jumped out the car and ran into the woods. But it was at this time that I started thinking to myself, what the fuck, man? You're in the woods. That goddamn headless French paymaster dude might come riding through here and shit. And if he comes riding through here and shit, he might cut your fucking head off. I mean, he's not happy. He's not happy. I wouldn't fucking be happy either. If, I stopped in the town somewhere and I'm supposed to be delivering money to help fight your cause. I'm thousands of miles away from home, don't speak your fucking language, and then you fuckers rob me. And you don't just rob me, you rob me and you fucking cut my fucking head off and kill me. I have an important mission to do. I'd be mad at everybody around there from that day forward. I wouldn't be trying to complete a fucking mission of delivering saddlebags that I know can't be delivered anymore. They were stolen. See, I don't know why anybody who reads or writes these legends believes that this ghost is still trying to complete his task. No, he has a new task now, people, and his task is fuck America and fuck you. That's his task. And I would find out firsthand that he is quite diligent in completing said task for an eternity. There's a small stretch of this forested road that you just don't want to be on, especially these types of nights. Foggy, misty, dark, moonlight shining through the trees, casting crazy shadows on the ground. Had me freaked out. I'm like, oh shit, oh, something over there. Oh, something over there. Oh god, oh shit, there's something over there. And you know, this went on for quite some time. I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Maybe I should go back to the car and perhaps I'll find where I need to be when I need to be there. And that wasn't the case. This mist had gotten so thick I couldn't find my way back to the damn car. But I did find what I can only guess was some type of a portal back in time. Because it was then that I ended up in the fucking inn on that very night that the French paymaster came into town. Now, I'm not sure how this all happened. Don't ask me how it happened. I have no fucking idea. But I was there. In the 17 fucking hundreds and shit. Went into the damn inn. One of the guys looked up at me. Hey! What dost thou doeth here? I'm like, I cameth to drink ale by the pint. Bring me the mead. I didn't know if what I was saying was historically accurate at all. But I figured the more I sounded like them, the better off I would be. It was at this time that when I walked over to the bar, looked into the mirror and shit, I saw that I wasn't, me, but I was the fucking French dude. So everything that I was saying, that I thought I was saying in English, they weren't hearing it in English. They were hearing it in broken English, a mixture of French and shit. I realized I got a weight on my shoulder. What is this weight? And it's the saddlebags. I'm like, fuck. Damn it. I'm the fucking French dude. They're gonna fucking cut off my fucking head. Oh, hell no. I know the story. They said the innkeeper might have did it. I'm not fucking around. So, you know what I'm saying? I sit down, I have a couple of sips of the ale, right? Just a couple of sips. Actually, yeah, I had a couple of sips, I'm not gonna fucking lie. This is back before my non-drinking days, so, don't get mad at me about that shit, you know what I'm saying? This is back in the day. So yeah, I had a couple of sips of the ale, right? As the French dude. And I seen a couple of people come sit up next to me and shit. They're talking to each other in front of me because they assume that I can't understand what they're saying. Now, I fathom that back then, when the French guy was really the French guy and not me in the French guy, that he didn't understand what they were saying. But I understood what the fuck they were saying. They were plotting and scheming. They knew what I had in those saddlebags because of the way the inscription on the saddlebag was. And it was locked. And obviously, the guy carrying the saddlebags didn't have the fucking key to the lock, right? Because I'm feeling on my person and I feel no keys. Anyway, so I'm sitting here listening to them talk about how, later on when I go to my room, find out what room I'm going to, yada yada yada, blah blah blah, right? Yeah, that's what you motherfuckers think. That's not what's gonna go down. That's not what's gonna go down at all. So, right, I tell the barkeep, hey, voulez-vous le room pour l'evening tonight, please, monsieur? Right? He walks me upstairs to this room. I lock the door, but I don't go to sleep. I don't go to sleep. I put the saddlebags under the bed. Now, mind you, I'm a soldier, so I have my sword. I've got a pistol. I mean, it's one of those old-timey flintlock type shits that has like the one-shot type deal. So it's not like, some magnificent thing, but it's enough, right? So I would say about an hour into me just sitting there, waiting to see what the fuck is going on, I hear a tapping at the window. These sons of bitches put a ladder to the window, slide it up. I pretend to be sleeping, but I got my little flintlock locked and loaded and ready to motherfucking go. Sword under my pillow and shit, right? Haha, yeah, motherfuckers. You're not fucking chopping my fucking head off. I'm not trying to be stuck back in time and shit. Fuck all that. I'm about to avenge this French motherfucker so he can stop taking other people's heads that ain't got shit to do with you bitch ass motherfuckers. You understand what I'm saying? Shit, fuck that. So the first guy comes through the window. I give him the full barrel blast. Boom! Right in the face. Blow half this dude's face off. He falls inside the window though, right? So I guess the sound of that fucking shot going off wasn't enough to deter his fucking friend from coming up behind him. So he comes in too. Right? He's like, oh! I'm like, ha! Stabbed him right in the shoulder. Ah! He's like, oh God, what are you doing? I'm like, what are you doing? What do you mean, what am I doing? What are you doing? You shot Fam! Yeah, I shot him. What the fuck? His name is Fam? That's a weird ass name. Fam? What's your name? Philip? Johnson? James? No, it's Flim. So Flim and Fam. Flim Fam? Fam Flim? What a fucking dumbass name for a pair of even dumber motherfuckers. You guys didn't think I could understand what the fuck you were saying. Now, of course, guys, they don't understand what I'm saying. Because all this shit that I'm saying to them is coming out in broken English mixed with French. So they're just looking at, well, no, one of them's not looking at me at all because half his face is blown off and he's laying on my floor. But the other dude is like looking at me like, I don't understand what you're saying. But in pain because I stabbed him in his fucking shoulder. You know what I'm saying? That's exactly what I did to him. So I start twisting the knife around and shit. And I'm like, you like that? Huh? You like that? And he's just like, and I kick him. Right? And he goes backwards, and I hear the sound of body and ladder landing on grassy, hard ground. I look out the window, and down below is the innkeeper. I point my finger at him. He looks up in shock. Runs back in. I unlock the door and I go downstairs, right? Got my saddlebags on my back. Sword in one hand, reloaded my little flintlock, musket pistol thing, and I got that shit ready. I go down there, I pointed at him. You know, he's trying to dive behind the bar to get what I'm assuming was a blunderbuss. But I didn't give him a chance to do that. I shot him in the arm. Bam! He spins around and shit. Blunderbuss falls to the ground. I grab that shit, load it up, shoot him in his legs. Boosh! Ah! He's on the ground, wiggling around, writhing in agony. I'm laughing my ass off at him and shit, which must have sounded like a French guy. Right? You know what I'm saying? I could tell they weren't expecting this shit. They weren't expecting this shit at all. They thought this shit was gonna play out like it did historically. No, it wasn't happening this time. It wasn't happening this time at all. Right? You know what I'm saying? So I figured, okay, I've stopped him from dying. Maybe now I'll wake up. Because obviously I don't want to change the course of history. You know, because now maybe if I deliver this money to where it goes, something might happen with the whole Revolutionary War and some shit may change, and then God knows, you know, you'll create one of those like time paradox things. But turned out that that wasn't the case. I didn't just snap out of it and come back to where I was supposed to be. You know, something told me, get on the horse. I'm like, okay, so I got on the horse. I start riding into the darkness of the night. Shit. And in the darkness, going down this dark, tree-covered road. Couldn't see much of anything. Except, you know, the moon was shining through. So I could see shadows and moonlight. So I had kind of an idea of which way I was going and shit. But not like a definitive idea of where the fuck it was I was going. So I just kept going straight. And in the distance, I saw what looked like a lantern in the hand of a person on a horse. I stopped my horse, It's like, whoa, whoa. I said, you there? What are you doing on this dark ass road? He didn't say anything at all. I knew who I was looking at. I knew exactly who I was looking at. It was the horseless, well, not horseless, I got a horse. Headless French paymaster. He pointed at me. And I'm looking at him like, oh, you want this? He points again. So, I hop down off the horse, and I walk over to him, and I hand him the saddlebags. Because I'm thinking to myself, that's got to be what he wants at this point. It's not like I can give him my head. He wouldn't want that, right? That's what he fucking wanted. So after I handed him the saddlebags and he threw them across his horse, he pointed at my face. He started to go for his sword. I knew what he was doing, but I wasn't about to let him do it. I turned around and I started running back towards the horse, which was nowhere to be found. It's like it just totally bounced on me and shit when I got off of it, which is fucked up, horse. I was really fucked up. I needed to ride back to where I was going, and you fucking left me. So if you're out there anywhere, horse, I hope you hear this shit and you feel like a complete and total asshole, horse. Anyway, so now I'm running back towards where I think is the inn, where I've caused all this chaos and shit and fucked those people up. But it's not where I ran to. When I ran there, it was gone. So I'm just like, fuck this, I'm gonna keep on running and running and running. But I look back behind me, and what I see is this horseman at full gallop, sword in his hand, raised. He's coming at me, no head. I'm like, he wants my head. He wants my head. He can't have my head. It's my head, mine. I'm not giving it up without a fight. So I jump, roll over into the dirt. He gallops past, get back up, and I can hear the sound of cars driving on the street. So I knew I must have gone back to the time that I was in before I got here. So I ran towards the noise of cars and traffic, and thankfully I ended up about, let's say, 100 yards away from where I pulled my car over to the side. I'm looking at the car, and from the distance I'm at, I can't really tell if there's anybody in it because it's dark outside. So I approach it with caution. And I know what you're probably thinking, right? Are you still the French guy in the uniform and sword and the little musket thing? Nope. I somehow, when I jumped and rolled away from him coming at me, turned back into my normal, usual self. So, no, I didn't have a sword, didn't have a little musket pistol and shit. Just me. So I approached the car with caution, because I don't want to run into John Jacobs if he's still there. Because, you know, he said he wanted my motherfucking soul and shit, and I wasn't about to give it to him. So, you know, as I get close to the car, I notice there's no one in it. So I hop in it really, really fast, hit the gas, peel off, tear ass out of there, right? And as I'm driving away, who do you think I see hitchhiking on the side of the road? John fucking Jacobs. I passed right on by that motherfucker. I don't even stop, wave, honk the horn, or nothing, because I know the deal. And I'm wondering to myself, just how many times has this guy tricked people into pulling over for him and then fucked them up? You ever notice how you see like a really nice car or any kind of car in Connecticut on the side of the fucking road with one of those like orange stickers on it, and you're saying to yourself, who would just leave their car there? Why wouldn't you call like AAA or some shit? And now I know why. Now I know why the cars are left there. Because there's no one to call AAA to get the car. Their souls have been snatched. The Horseman has taken their heads off to a time where, you know, people got buried under inns and shit without their heads, robbed of their saddlebags full of cash. ridiculous, yo. I drove home immediately, and I was so happy. I mean, I was so fucking happy to have made it through what I was considering to be probably one of the scariest drives I've ever had in my life. Beyond the one where, you know, that ghost of myself was in the back seat, you know, looking at me and shit, trying to kill me, demon thing. Yeah, it's like number two compared to that. You know what I'm saying? But I made it. I survived the Headless Horseman of Canton. I suggested if you are ever on Route 44 and you see anybody hitchhiking, whether it be daytime or fucking nighttime, you do not stop. You don't pick them up. You don't do any of that shit. Don't do any of that shit. You cannot trust that road or that route when it comes to ghostly hitchhikers that may want to take your soul. Or at the very least, just harass the fuck out of you and bother you while you're driving and shit, and then you realize, like, for the past 2 or 3 miles, you've been talking to a ghost. And then you're kind of scared about it, because then you're going to wonder, well, where are they going? And are they going to try to take me with them? So just, you know, don't do that. Alright, people? Don't do it. I want to thank you all for joining me for OmenG's Stupid Scary Stories. Number 50. It's a big number for me. 50. I never thought I would be around to do any of these, to be honest with you. I thought I'd probably lose my mind, go crazy from all the paranormal shit that I've seen, and just end up like a vegetable in a psych ward somewhere, straitjacket, muttering things to myself. I seen him in the dark. He was back there. It's craziness. I didn't understand it. And who's it? Don't touch my pants! Leave my shirt alone. I don't need that. What are you doing? Please, stop it. Everybody, you know what I'm saying? Who wants to be stuck doing that for the rest of their fucking life? Nobody. You know what I'm saying? Nobody. So thank you all once again. If you liked the video, go ahead and give it a like. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, well, you know what? Subscribe. I'm not really good with this whole algorithm thing. Terrible at it. I just like telling stupid ass stories and shit. I find it to be entertaining. I hope you do too. And if so, like I said, like and subscribe. Until the next tale of terror, or just a tale of dumbness, I bid you farewell.